It's Monday, May 2nd, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, building your own PC in 2016.
Let's do this.
Yeah, sorry for the lack of Geek Nights right after PAX, which sucked because we had a lot of stuff to talk about. Like, we had a good Tuesday show coming up, but I got the flu. I'm just now almost
If you give
recovered.
me the flu, I will come back and make you get a second flu.
It was a pretty bad flu, but the badness really only lasted one day, and then there's just like 2-week convalescence afterward.
And then when you get over the flu, I'm going to come back with something I stole from CDC places and, put it in your food.
Though, the more annoying thing was because I was sick, I basically just stayed home and worked on Geek Night stuff. So I did upload a bunch of videos like that How to Run an Anime Club panel and all that crap. But I also tried to upload a Patreon thing, and I was unable to. And I have an open ticket with them, and I'm really curious to see where this goes. I think they're going to need my help because I tried to upload an MP3 file as an attachment or for the embedded player. Both options fail. But it only fails with one particular MP3 file that is not particularly different from any other MP3 file I've uploaded, and it specifically fails in a very specific 100% repeatable way, yet other similar files do not fail, and they seem to be stumped, so I have an open ticket with them, and it's interesting.
Oh, I'm surprised that they actually care and are looking at it.
Oh no, I've gotten more tech support from Patreon than I've gotten ever from, I don't know, Google, Apple, Intel combined.
It must be one of those startup-y places where, the people are working too hard.
What's weird is I tweeted at them because I figured that's the kind of place where, the only place to get a human is to tweet at them. I didn't get a response there, so I was like, that's weird. This seems like a kind of company where someone's job is just, read Twitter all day. Mm-hmm. So I go to the website, how do I actually get support? Because, it's interesting in the modern era, you don't expect there to be a way to get support for most things. So, I go to the website, and sure enough, I could just open a ticket. So I opened a ticket, and it totally worked. I'm kind of shocked by that.
I'm trying to see if I actually contacted Spotify support today, and I'm curious if it works, right? Because if you go on Spotify and you search for Captain Jack, there's actually 2 different Captain Jacks.
And one of them's fake?
Well, it's not fake. He's just some rapper who calls himself Captain Jack, but he's mixed in with the good Captain Jack, right?
Oh, you can't click on, the creator?
I mean, it is, but that isn't in the artist page. It's there's 2 sets of albums from 2 different artists mixed together because they have the same name. And then today I searched for BTS because they have a new album that's not on Spotify yet. And the first album wasn't their album. It was some chiptunes album by a group I suppose is named BTS. But
I would assume.
Then it's all the regular BTS albums. So I went and I was like, how do you fix this? So they're like, fill out the support form on Spotify. So I did. I filled it out twice, being like, these are mixed together. These are mixed together. So we'll see if they get unfixed.
I wonder if there are musical artists who make names of songs and names of bands that are designed to get confused with things where likely that won't be fixed, trying to funnel people toward their crap.
Well, no, the Captain Jack guy seems like he's an actual musician,
But still, good on you.
He just happens to call him, and then BTS seems like an actual chiptunes album. It doesn't seem like some Fako album.
But I'm glad you're defending Captain Jack, because I feel like no one else will. Captain Jack is fondly remembered, at least by me.
By me also. I'm sure, many people remember Captain Jack.
Not as many as should.
Not as many as should, indeed, but enough.
So do you have any news, or do I need to provide you some news to talk about?
I don't think there's any news, really.
There's a lot
At least there's not any
news.
Technology news. I mean...
there's a lot of technology news.
It's all garbage.
All right. So I got some news then. So this is an interesting article. It's one of those UX teardowns, but it's a long, long article with lots of screenshots and examples comparing Google Maps in 2010 to Google Maps in 2016. And what it's specifically comparing is what data and what density of data are shown at different zoom levels. And the conclusion is actually something that I've noticed, but I didn't really think about. And as I was reading this, I started thinking about this a lot. The conclusion is that in 2010, Google showed city names all over the place. Towns and cities were like they were labeled all over the maps, more like a traditional map. But nowadays, basically doesn't fucking show you any names of cities. It just shows the interstates and important roads. And that's pretty much it, unless you search for the name of a town. Now, as I scrolled through this article, I was thinking about it, and I realized that the article's good, but the conclusion that the person who wrote the article makes is basically old man yelling at cloud, like just doesn't get it. I'm sorry, person who wrote this article, and everyone who might be mad about this once you notice it. The reason your town's name is not on Google Maps anymore is because no one cares about your town. Like, the names of towns are never useful when you're looking at Google Maps. You need to see the roads because people really only use Google Maps at that zoom level when they're driving and looking at directions to get somewhere. Google is primarily a navigational thing or a find a restaurant in the town I'm in thing at this point. And Google's UX has basically moved toward that end, and it's actually a much cleaner, better design. I pretty much disagree with every conclusion this article makes, but the article is a really good place to see side by side the changes in Google's UI, and it's actually a really, really detailed article.
I couldn't care less about whether a town name appears on Google Maps.
Well, it's not just that. It's that in the old days, if you just, like, say you just look at a town in Google or look at an area in Google, you'd see, like, some of the interstates, and you'd see, like, 10 or 15 towns, like, with little dots in their names next to them. Now you see almost no text at all. It's just interstates and a handful of cities. Like in New York.
I know, but I don't care. What
you don't care about UX at all? Data design?
I don't
data
really
display,
give a shit.
Information? Like you don't care at all about aesthetics or any of that stuff?
I do not care about this in any way.
So you don't care if interfaces ever change or get better?
I didn't even notice, which is the best kind.
All right. Well, I guess that's why you're not a UX designer. So I had noticed this, and I'd noticed a lot of changes like this over the years. And I found, too, that a lot of people seem to be really mad about this. And most
this one guy.
No, so it's mostly the people who are mad about these changes seem to fall into
people who are mad about change of anything?
They fall into a particular group. They're the same people who would, for example, rather than using their smartphone to just get directions when they go somewhere, they print maps or directions from their desktop, and then they take that into their car, and most of these people seem to prefer physical maps to Google Maps and are just dumb old people who don't know better.
I did that back in the day when there were no phones.
Yeah.
That did that well.
This also, it's interesting because this change coincides pretty heavily with the fact that in the early days, the vast majority of clients hitting Google Maps were desktop computers. And nowadays, the far majority of the things ever hitting Google Maps are smartphones. So it's basically the design catering toward the need. And the problem is Google Maps is called Google Maps, and it analogizes what we would think of as a map. But yet, most of the things that humans have used maps for up until recently are better served by things that don't really look recognizably like the maps that we used in the old days. Like, extra detail in a map is almost useless 99% of the time when you're using the map, because you're almost always using the map only to get to a specific point somewhere on that map, and you're not particularly interested in, like, what the town next to the point you're getting to is named after. So all this means is that someone at Google has been consistently, for years, refining the interface of Google Maps, and they've actually done a really good job of it. And a lot of people, like Scott, just never noticed how much better this interface has gotten over the years.
All right, whatever.
All right. So I guess you don't care about stuff. Here's another one. Intel has decided that they're all but abandoning the PC business. They're going to sideline their PC business. Not too far to say that they might give up on the PC business down the road. And they're basically saying that mobile chips, cloud, server type stuff is all they care about. That PCs, desktops, that sort of thing is just not a market worth considering anymore.
I haven't read this news, but it feels like you are...
It
feels like one of this news that you are greatly exaggerating.
Well, they also just cut 12,000 jobs.
Well, that doesn't sound exaggerated at all.
Yeah.
That sounds 100% correct.
And also the article here is actually on Intel's website. This isn't just like some speculatory article.
I'm not saying it's speculatory. I'm saying you are exaggerating the words that are on that page, most likely. Just based on how much I know you. I haven't read the article.
All right, well, you can read the article, but they are sidelining their PC business, and
they're sidelining their CPU cooler business.
Yeah. It's sort of relevant because if you notice, I was thinking about buying a PC last year because mine's getting near the end. That's kind of the point of the show tonight. And the components I would put in that PC between a year ago and today like nothing better has come out. Like there aren't better chips for PCs. Intel's not releasing PC chips on nearly the scale that they used to.
Because they're not that much better than the previous ones.
Yeah.
Since Moore's Law died some years back, it's pretty much just like your CPU's just as good as the previous one. Only the GPUs keep sort of bumping. And even then, they're not bumping, as crazily as they used to, right? I mean, it used to be there was a huge gap between one GPU and the next. Now, there's still a good gap.
Yeah.
But it's not enormous like it was before. In CPUs, the gap between like one CPU generation and the next in terms of price, performance, whatever, is not really that much.
Yep.
You're not going to notice when you're using your computer.
Now, all they said was they're basically sidelining the PC business. My speculation is that they're going to, down the road, back away from the PC business. I don't know what that'll necessarily mean, but increasingly people don't seem to use desktop computers unless they are like super professionals or gamers with VR.
Well, I mean, when Apple's making their own CPUs, so they're okay if Intel goes away, right? They make for all their iPads, iPhones, they make the A7s, whatever. So they could easily just use those fabs and their designers to make stuff to put in MacBooks if Intel stops doing it.
Yep.
PCs, I mean, AMD, I don't know if they'll stop or not, but they suck. So, I mean, if this doomsday that I think is still ways off, if it's even coming.
Well, it's a ways off, and we've been worried.
If this doomsday comes, we can just go on Newegg and buy like 5 of the last generation of chips or whatever, and that way, if things get too serious where just one chip doesn't cut it, we can just go to 2-chip, 3-chip, 4-chip. And get better motherboards. Well,
I guess the interesting problem is just that the PC market shrunk, and meanwhile, separately, there was a very narrow window at the end of the K6 era and the K7 era, and then that window disappeared, where AMD was making chips that had comparable performance to Intel chips at a lower price. There was competition for the desktop computing market. Then AMD just shit the bed, and
Intel cheated, basically, which...
Intel got cheated by having R&D.
Well, no. There was a lawsuit that Intel lost that was pretty much just like, yeah, they cheated, but...
Yeah, but they also they've continuously done R&D, and they were able to continue moving forward. It almost appears like, just speculation, that Intel wasn't pushing too hard until AMD competed with them, and then they had to do something. But now there's no competition. No one's making desktop PC chips anymore. Like, who's going to compete with Intel?
Because it costs so much money to get into the business and to make the chips, and then how many of them are you going to sell, really, to gamers?
Yep.
And maybe someone with a server farm.
And even gamers, like, a VR-ready rig, if you built a reasonably fast PC in the last year or two, all you need to do is upgrade the video card. Like, you don't need to buy anything else. Not much has changed. Things of the day. So, I don't know if you watched this. Do you know about Abu Hajar?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
So this was a YouTube video, Vice News thing that went viral. But basically, ISIS, Daesh soldiers, they often wear GoPros and things to get all this video, and that's how they make their ads, like, come join the fight or whatever.
Yeah, because when you see a video of that makes me want to go.
Well, they make it look all badass and cool.
Aren't those videos just going to make everyone want to stay the fuck away?
No, those videos make really impressionable people who think that they can be a badass. They feel like, ooh, I could be that.
Isn't the world a better place if those people go there and the smart people leave there?
Maybe, but that's not the argument I want to have now. So, a unit of ISIS, they died. Like, they were defeated.
That's how they do.
The footage from someone's GoPro was recovered. Mm-hmm. And there's one ISIS soldier in this unit, Abu Hajar. And Abu Hajar is that guy. Abu Hajar is a fuck up.
So even among ISIS people, among them, he is that guy.
If you don't want to watch, like, for real video of these guys fighting, someone made a compilation of just every time someone's screaming at him, and it's like he starts firing the machine gun, and they're like, Abu Hajar, what the fuck? You're hitting us with the shell casings. Move it over to the other side. And Abu Hajar, you're doing it again. Stop it. At one point, he tries to shoot the machine gun because everyone's yelling at him.
Why did they make him the machine gun guy?
So then he moves over, and he's resting the machine gun a different way, and he starts to fire it, and then the front of it falls into the cabin and starts ricocheting bullets all over inside. And once again, the guy's like, Abu Hajar, WTF. Then later, they're like, give me that, and they give him a rocket launcher instead.
What? Why would you give the rocket launcher to Abu Hajar?
Let me tell you.
Give Abu Hajar the knife.
So
that is what you give him.
when Abu Hajar,
You give him the pointy stick at best.
when Abu Hajar has the RPG, he not once but twice fires it, but he aims it up, and just before he fires it, you see the guy go, "No, Abu Hajar," and the exhaust blast comes into the cabin and burns them all. So, this article, the reason I'm making it my thing of the day is that kind of made the rounds. And you know, it's a thing. I saw someone already selling Abu Hajar t-shirts.
Yeah, and this is why military training is a thing.
Yeah, like zones of fire, and like at one point, the guy who's yelling at him is like, "Abu Hajar, cover me." And the predictable...
Abu Hajar doesn't know what cover means.
No, he
Abu
did.
Hajar probably murdered him.
So he did know, but the guy who told him to cover him probably didn't know, because the guy says, "Abu Hajar, cover me." Abu Hajar starts firing. The shell casings start hitting that guy again, because he probably didn't realize cover me means fire. So what I'm linking to, my actual thing of the day, is a pretty interesting technical takedown of a military person explaining all the things Abu Hajar does wrong and like what specifically he was doing wrong. And it's just a really fascinating article. It also shows you kind of like how, from a military only perspective, like how ISIS fights.
How jokey they are.
Oh, look, here's Abu. See, be careful. And then he's got the RPG. And then see that exhaust. Ba-doom! Good job, but you roasted us too. What's wrong with you, Abu Hajar?
Okay.
So you got a thing of the day?
I do. It's much better than your thing of the day. So, pop-up books are good.
Pop-up books are pretty good.
I have my Odyssey pop-up book, which is like the best.
Oh, yeah, where you throw the spike into the Cyclops eye.
Oh, it's such a good one.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
It's got moving spike action.
Yeah, it's great. I see here in this YouTube video a pop-up book that is maybe even better. It even though it's new style Transformers, it's still a Transformers pop-up book. And as you can imagine, there's transforming action in this pop-up book, and it is like holy shit level of popping up and booking. So you don't need to buy this probably expensive pop-up book that will take up a lot of room in your place of living and not provide as much entertainment value, because you can just watch this YouTube video and get the full experience.
I feel like everyone should own...
go to like the Barnes & Noble near you and play with it, and then put it back on the shelf and go home.
Pop-up books are like wall scrolls. Like, if you're going to have one, just have one and have the best one and don't have any more.
Oh, should I sell my Odyssey one and get a Transformers one?
I don't know. That Odyssey one is pretty good.
And the Odyssey one is so much more rare, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't find that shit.
That was from that like artisanal pop-up book dude who was at
the
Mocha
yeah,
years ago.
Years ago. So...
In the meta moment, the book club book will be Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood.
I meant to start reading it, and I didn't.
I meant to start reading it, but now I'm halfway through the 12th book of the Wheel of Time.
It's sitting there on my little nightstand, getting ready to get read, and then a One Punch Man fell on top of it, and then Master Keaton fell on top of it, and then Astro Omnibus fell on top of it. It's just like, no, help.
It's fine.
I'm just words. I cannot beat these mangas.
It's fine, because I made an accidental commitment, and now I'm sticking to it. Me and Kahil are going to do a Wheel of Time podcast at PAX Prime.
We're going to spend PAX Prime time on it podcasting about Wheel of Time.
It won't take us more than an hour, but we're just going to talk about what happened to Rand al'Tor over these last
I didn't know Heels was
books.
that into the fantasy novels.
Well, you know what it is?
Should have a nice fantasy novel discussion.
Here's what I realized. Because I've noticed whenever I tweet about the Wheel of Time, there's a few people who like respond. It's like us with the Prince of Nothing. Like if someone
if I
mentions
saw a
it,
tweet about Prince of Nothing, I would have to say something.
That's it.
About the Gnosis.
If you're thirsty for talking about your like long-running dense fantasy series, there aren't that many people you can talk about it with who you haven't already talked about everything with.
Has Heels read a Prince of Nothing?
I don't know, so I'm going to find out.
Maybe he should.
If he's thirsty for that, as much as Burning Wheel, my brain's getting messed up. As much as the Prince of Nothing is very sort of Tolkien-esque deconstruction, it is also really Wheel of Timey deconstruction. Wheel of Time is closer to those books than you'd think. Especially once you get into the weird stuff with the Forsaken and Compulsion and all that creepy stuff down the road.
Yeah, those guys are aliens who landed in a rocket. And
So, otherwise, we have no conventions until Kineticon in July. Panel submissions are open. The form kind of sucks.
If you're on our staff, you have to fill out this form on the website. Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
So Scott, I filled it out like 4 times. I can't tell if it works because it's just
if you got the error, it worked.
I get nothing.
Oh.
If I hit submit, it just goes back to itself again, empty.
Did you fill out every single field on the form?
I did.
Even the ones you think you don't have to fill out?
I filled out every single field.
Because there's a message that will tell you what you messed up, but it's a hard to see message because of bad UI.
Yeah. I'll just keep filling it out. I'll just try a couple different ways. I'll try a different browser, too.
I'm going to
maybe.
ask the guy to give me a list of everyone who filled it out.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Connecticut will be there, as always. But the website's having some trouble lately, and I have no comment on that. Next after that, of course, is PAX Prime. Don't worry. PAX badges supposedly will not go on sale for like another week or two. So you got some time to relax.
PAX West, it's changed its name.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going on sale after the PAX South badges. And so the PAX South badges, the problem is, I guess, South and Aus, they weren't selling. They're still selling out, right? But they're not selling out in advance. So like Robert Koo, for example, there were no hoodies at PAX South, right? And why was that? Well, because Robert Koo says, I don't know how many people are actually coming to this PAX South, but I know I'm going to sell this many hoodies per person. But how many hoodies should I make? Is it going to be worth it to make hoodies for PAX South? And if you noticed, PAX South didn't have any hoodies. And that's because he has to do the hoodies far enough in advance of the PAX. So he has to, right? So if everyone would have pre-registered for the PAX South, he might have made some yellow hoodies for everybody.
Of course, meanwhile, despite the ridiculous
But that's
number...
just one example of, right? The more people pre-order in advance, the better they can plan the convention and the better...
But meanwhile, PAX East, it sells out immediately no matter what. They know the crowd. And despite that, those hoodies sold out like Friday morning.
No, they sold out on like Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah, they sold out of men's medium right away, and then you're fucked.
Oh, maybe. But anyway, so, he's basically said, look, we need people to pre-order the South badges far in advance, even though the demand is lower than for the other ones.
Yep, but the problem is...
He's offering big incentives for people who pre-order. So if you're thinking about going to PAX South next year, and you're going to pay for it and do it the normal way by buying a badge, buy your badge as soon as they go on sale, and you're going to get all these goodies. So if you're going to go, why not buy the badge now and get the goodies?
Well, a lot of people don't know if they're going to go, and they decide later.
But if you buy now and get the goodies, you can just, not go later. And you'll
the other thing is, I don't want goodies. I got enough things in my house.
One of the goodies is I don't want the goodies either, but one of them is a custom lanyard that you can't get any other way.
But I've already got a nice, fancy custom lanyard.
I know, but I'm just saying there's someone out there who wants that.
True. But there is the fundamental problem, not that this is the topic of the show or anything, but... PAX East will sell out. They could probably sell up like a couple 100,000 badges just because so many millions of people live within a drive.
I think there was an interview once where he said he could sell 5X. I don't know about that, but you could definitely sell.
I think he could.
You could definitely sell 3X no matter what.
I think you could sell 5X or more.
4X, I think, is the borderline.
How many people are within a day's drive of Boston?
I don't know how many people,
more than 20 million.
I don't know how that percentage. Would really hundreds of thousands of people come to the PAX?
I think so. What percentage of people would like to go to a PAX? Put that against the number of people within a day's drive of Boston. But PAX Prime, while it's smaller, it's the first one. It has the sort of international appeal. Like all the people who fly long distances, they're going to go to that one, obviously. So that one sells out no matter what. But who lives close to San Antonio? Everyone who lives nearby already goes.
The desert people.
Yeah, they all already go.
I think there's people who don't know about it or don't go who probably should, right? It's like I know there's gamers in like Oklahoma because there's like a Netrunner scene there, and they don't go to PAX.
Oklahoma to San Antonio is quite a trip, though.
It's not any more of a trip than like to Boston or Seattle.
But if you're going to do a big trip, you might as well go to the way bigger PAX.
It's cheaper to go to San Antonio.
It is cheaper to go to...
Especially if you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Dude, it's cheaper to go to San Antonio for us, and we live in New York.
That's what I'm saying. So the Tulsa, Oklahoma people, if you're a gamer in Tulsa, Oklahoma, shouldn't you be going to PAX South?
But most gamers care about the Expo Hall nonsense, and that PAX South doesn't have a lot of that going on.
The Expo Hall at PAX South must be way cheap. We should get in on that.
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll do in there, but we should do it.
We would go in with a bunch of people and make the luxury box. We just sit in it. It's like private tabletop.
Yeah, we could do like the Twitch booth, where it's just a luxury box for Twitch.
We could do that. We'd have to get some people in, because I don't want to pay
We need to hire one of those companies that makes booths.
Scott, the Patreon money.
Yeah, go use it for that.
Everyone
still wouldn't be enough.
Everyone who's I had the price sheet from the first two PAX East. We could have bought a booth at those first two.
Sure.
Now we can't.
No kidding.
But
I'm
we
saying
could have back then. We could have
I'm
gotten a
not talking
big
about the
old
price.
booth.
The price for the space at PAX South we could probably afford. It's probably thousands of dollars, right? Especially for the small booth we're gonna get. But the price to make a booth like the Twitch booth would be expensive.
Wonder how much it would cost to pay Twitch just to put us in their lineup. That's how everyone else does it.
Is that how it works?
I don't know.
You pay for time on that Twitch couch.
I mean, I bet they just give it to like their creators. But I'm sure if we went to them with like 10 grand and we're like, look, schedule us on this thing. Here's 10 grand.
If you got 10 grand, don't use it on that. And if you try to use it on that, just let me know so I can murder you first and
here's the
prevent you
problem.
from doing that.
For us, yeah, 10 grand. We could do a lot better things with 10 grand. But in the advertising, like eyeball space, 10 grand for that would be way cheap compared to other forms of that
That
kind
would
of
give
thing.
you such a bad return on eyeballs per dollar.
Could it give you less of a return than the people who pay for those panels at New York Comic Con that literally no one goes to?
No, but it would still be, you could get a ton of eyeballs for 10 grand if we just bought like Google ads or something.
Yeah.
Or Project, we could hire someone to design really nice ads and put them on Project Wonderful.
Well, I did, because I got a bunch of free money. I did run a Google ad campaign once for one of our YouTube videos, and it actually like drove a lot of eyeballs and a lot of ad revenue.
Yeah, we could make YouTube pre-roll ads and put them on YouTube.
Yeah. Anyway. So I've talked about this off and on, but I've got my rig together. And, you know, typically, like in the old days, we talked about building computers a lot more often than we do now because computers changed a lot more.
Well, that's true, but also...
well, think about like the year 98 through 2005. I pretty much always stayed abreast of like what was going on in computers because shit was changing all the time.
Well, it's also a timing thing, right? So because of the time of when we started Geek Nights, I think it's like... There was a time early on where, like, I got a new computer, then you got a new one. Then 5 years passed, then we both got new computers again. And there was also a period where we moved and got HD PCs, so we bought extra computers.
True.
Right? And then you actually bought 2 computers because you bought the Mac Mini, and then you said, and then you bought another computer. So there was, like, a bunch of extra computer buying. But even though, you know, still... It feels like, oh, did we used to buy computers more often? It's like, no. I've consistently bought a new desktop computer pretty much every 4 to 6 years.
Yep, I was about to say 4 to 6 years.
Every year since 1998, 99.
It's 4 to 6 years
Except for the one time when it broke.
Yep, when my K7 800.
Yeah, those AMDs broke, so we bought more computers then.
But I bought another AMD. I bought a Thunderbird Gigahertz.
Mm-hmm.
And that one broke actually later too. So.
Yeah. But it's just like we bought computer, so my computer is like only like 3 years old, I think. I'm not
also
even sure.
in that era, we both bought our first like for real laptops and upgraded them like once each. And now like I'm still using that same laptop.
I actually upgraded from the laptop to the iPad Pro.
Yep, I'm gonna get the iPad Pro.
I haven't used the laptop. It's sitting in the closet.
See, the problem is the iPad Pro cannot replace my laptop because one, I still haven't fully figured out if there is a clicker situation to use the iPad Pro to present panels at PAXs.
Yes, there is. You can use Keynote.
I'm not using Keynote.
Well, then...
I want to use the kind of clicker I use now. I don't know if there's a good way to plug something like that or Bluetooth.
If you have a clicker that is effectively a Bluetooth keyboard, then you could connect to it. The iPad would think it is a Bluetooth keyboard,
True.
And then you could use Google Drive, and Google Drive would say, "Oh, you're pressing page down, next page."
Problem 2, I can't run like Audition and shit on iPad Pro like I can on my laptop.
You can use Premiere Clip.
That's not useful at all for me.
It's actually pretty good, but it's not real Premiere.
Yeah, like so.
And there's no Audition, but there are audio recording type programs.
They're like Prelude and like all those things that let you like half do your workflow. I found that for the workflows
you
I
can
have,
do a full workflow on these things if you just don't care. Like I use the Lightroom one.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, there's stuff you can't do in the mobile Lightroom as easily or as good. But it's like, if you really wanted to, you could use Lightroom Mobile.
Yeah, but Lightroom is a good example. If we had a more robust or less robust workflow for video, then yeah, that stuff would work fine. But our workflow is pretty much as professional as it can be without overinvestment. And those tools just would add time to no real
But
benefit.
you haven't used them.
I've tried them out.
When did you try Premiere Clip?
Oh, no, so I tried Prelude.
Oh, no. I'm talking about, like, the mobile versions of the Adobe apps.
Yeah, I read what Clip does because I was, I'm going to buy that iPad Pro. So I was like, maybe I'll use this. My general feeling was I probably won't use it. But also, I can't play Civ 5 on my iPad Pro.
So don't. play Warbits.
No, but I play Civ 5 when I travel. I play Rocket League when I travel for work.
I just don't.
Next week, I'm flying to Hong Kong, and I'm going to be in Australia for like a week. So in the evening, if I'm in my hotel room for a few hours before I go to bed, I just want to play some Rocket League.
You got to tell me what days so I know what days not to come here.
Oh, yeah. I'm gone the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So when are you leaving?
Tuesday, I'm flying to... So I guess Monday, if we wanted to, we could do like one more show for like the next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or over the weekend, we could do a bunch of shows, and then you have 2 weeks off.
We'll see.
Yeah, Tuesday, I'm flying to Hong Kong. Saturday after that, I'm flying to Sydney, and I'll be in Sydney until Thursday, and then Friday morning, then I'm flying back here. So I'll be home here Friday afternoon.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a little too cold for like beach time, so I'm going to go mountain biking instead.
Hopefully it'll be warm here.
Well, now that I've done some serious mountain biking in Australia, I'm going to do those courses again, and I'm going to like try to beat times and like get some lap records and shit. So
Good luck with that.
yeah, I forgot how much I love mountain biking. But I digress. Not talking about a laptop, because I'm not going to buy a new laptop.
Ever?
Maybe the Surface Pro 6. That's when I feel like it'll be time to buy a new laptop. But I'm going to go through my full rig of what I would buy if I was building a computer literally today. I might change it a little bit before I actually buy it, because I don't need to buy it. It's not like times in the past where my computer is dying, like the USB's failed, I need a new computer quick to do GeekNights. Everything's fine, so I'm actually in no rush, so I can tweak this a little bit. But it basically gives me a chance to sort of go over all the things that actually have changed.
What has changed?
So the biggest things that's changed is that, like, when you look at the motherboards, one, there's USB 3 and USB 3.1 and all that kind of new stuff that just isn't on
my
all the
motherboard
computers.
has USB 3 and it's like years old.
Yeah, my motherboard does not have USB 3 because USB 3 did not exist when I built this computer.
That's sort of necessary. USB 3 is actually kind of a big deal. Like, if I put my USB stick in the not USB 3 hole, it's very sad.
DDR4 is a lot faster.
Can you even notice, though?
For certain kinds of things.
I mean, I have 32 gigs of RAM. It's like RAM is not an issue.
Amount of RAM doesn't matter, but RAM speed can matter, especially for things like rendering.
Whatever.
Because there's a lot of effects in Premiere that will calculate some massive, stupid data set, and they do it in your RAM. So you need to have enough RAM to hold the whole thing until it finishes the calculation. But there's SATA 6 instead of SATA 3. I think I've talked about before.
I'm not sure which SATA I have, but I'm pretty sure it's 6.
It's probably 3. It doesn't really matter because only recent drives can actually use that stuff.
I mean, the speed of my SATA drive has never been a problem. They're already so fast.
Mine are not fast enough to do 4K video stuff as real time as I'd like to. Especially if you're doing the multi-camera view in Premiere. Like, I do not have enough bandwidth. Power supplies and stuff has actually not changed that much, which was interesting. Firewire's dead, of course.
Yeah, my motherboards all actually still have Firewire on them. My HTPC
there's no more Firewire.
And my desktop both have one Firewire each.
UEFI, but that's been around for a while.
My computer has that.
M.2 is probably the one you'll have to think about the most, because now, basically, when you build a computer...
Well, isn't the main advantage of it just space savings? Like, now you can just put a hard drive on a tiny stick onto your motherboard and then
M.2
get a way tiny computer.
Also supports...
Instead of having, like, now you don't need, like, a power cable and a data cable and all this garbage to plug in.
That's part of it, but
drive.
Also, there's different kinds of SSDs now, and basically, you can... And this used to only be the realm of, like, ultra servers, but SSDs can connect via SATA 3 or SATA 6 or PCI Express bus.
Why would you put a whole SSD into your PCI Express slot?
So people who are doing high-end video workflows often do because they have plenty of PCI Express slots.
But, I mean, is it really faster?
Yes. 32 gigabit per second.
All right.
And if you get a high-end SSD, which we'll talk about SSDs in a minute, because one of the side things that's changed is that not all SSDs are made, like, they're not all the same, guys. The cheaper ones...
There's cheap ones now, but they're not as good.
Yeah, like in fact, the lower-end SSDs, you're almost better off getting a high-end spinning disk for how badly they perform. But... So you don't put these things unless, like, you're crazy in, like, your X16 slots where your video cards go.
No, because where are you going to put your video card?
Yeah, you put it like
well,
the X4.
actually, can you put your video... If you're not doing the SLI, can you actually use that second slot of PCI X16 for a hard drive? Or do you have to put it in the regular PCI Express slot that's a normal kind?
So it's just using the protocol. So basically, like the motherboard I got, if you look at it, the M.2 slot is technically an X4 PCI Express.
Oh, really?
So if you put an M2 drive that supports SATA, or not SATA, supports PCI Express access because it's a high-performance drive, it'll be wicked fast.
Mm.
So basically now, if you're not going to put, like if you're building a relatively small computer.
If you're building a computer that doesn't need a giant video card in it,
yeah,
get an M2 and it'll be the tiniest computer in the universe and crazy fast.
The thing is, even at M2 goes into the M2 slot. It doesn't take up your PCI Express. You can still put a giant video card in there.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like your computer could just be so small though.
Oh yeah, you can make the tiniest computer.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm pairing this with, and that's where it gets interesting, is because a lot of people asked why I'm getting 2 SSDs.
I have 2 SSDs.
Yep. Right now I have 3.
I could probably do 3.
But so my main hard drive now is this Samsung SSD. And it's
so
not
is mine.
cheap. It's $350.
I don't know if mine was $350, but it was hundreds because it was really big at the time. It was like one of the biggest ones you could get.
Oh, Scott, my 30 gigabyte SSD that I bought in 2009 was like $400.
Yeah, mine it was like I think it's a 256, and it was less than that, but still it was. You know.
So
I think at the time I bought it, you could only get a 512, and if that was a fortune. So
I got 2 SSDs here, and the thing with the SSDs is that the good name brands.
Yeah, that looks like the one I have.
Yeah, that cost more. Like benchmarks show, they perform so much better. Don't even bother with those cheap SSDs. Like they're not great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of advertising there that like seems fake because it looks like the same kind of marketing you would see for something like Monster Cable, which is just bullshit, right? Where people are like, "Oh, these are so much faster than those." It's the same garbage you see on all the packaging for these things. But like for example, I have these Patriot USB sticks, and it's just a USB stick, and they're like. On the advertising, like so much faster than your other USB sticks. And you think, really? USB stick speed? That's what we're getting into now? But no. These USB sticks, the Patriot ones, like the USB 3 blue ones that I have, they are so much faster than every other USB stick I have.
Well, this array of SD cards that I've got, like these all perform differently.
Like I have the newer SATA drive, the newer SSD I have compared to the older one I have is so much faster.
So, but anyway, so I'm getting the Samsung 850 Evo, which is like a SATA 3 like standard SSD. Mm-hmm. It's 500 gigs, which is plenty.
That's plenty for your OS and your apps?
No, that's not for OS and apps. So that is my backup SSD. The only thing that's going there is when Scott gives me all the video and all the stuff from panels, everything I'm working on goes on that drive.
Yeah, that's what I put on my secondary drive also. So if that's your secondary drive, but that's good enough to be your primary drive, what's the primary one?
So that's the secondary drive. It's right now it's like $175, which is
man, that's hella cheap.
Yeah, it is because now you can get a 500 gig SSD for like $70.
That's probably garbage.
It's definitely garbage. But
what specifically about it is garbage besides just being slower?
It's just that it's slower and theoretically less reliable, but I base that solely on Newegg reviews.
There are a lot of reliability issues, right? People don't understand how SSDs work and how flash works.
But the thing is, like name brands, like I actually trust Samsung a lot compared to other SSDs.
Samsung has one of like the best flash factories like on earth.
Yeah, and it's
You'd be surprised like how much flash stuff in general. Like what do you think? Your iPhone has flash storage in it. Who do you think makes that? It ain't Apple.
So. The part of the reason why I chose this particular one as my backup SSD is one, it's the right size. Like the 1 terabyte one is just way too expensive. 250 gigs isn't big enough, but it's got a full 5 egg review still, despite almost 600 reviews. That says a lot because Newegg people are not kind.
No. When there's a bad product at Newegg, you'll see it has like no eggs.
Yep. Now, sometimes you buy the no egg product anyway, but you know what you're getting into. Like when you buy those Roseville Firewire chips or whatever.
Roseville is Newegg brand. It's actually pretty good.
It's pretty good, except their Firewire chips are some of the worst Firewire chips in the world.
I've never tried a Roseville Firewire chip, but I have Roseville keyboard. That's really good.
Oh, yeah. They're fine,
Cherry
actually.
chips, yeah.
So, my main drive is a Samsung 950 Pro M.2 512 gigabyte PCI Express card.
Wait,
it just looks like a RAM
M2
stick.
or PCI Express?
It's M2. Well, it's M2 form factor PCI Express protocol.
Okay.
M2 is just the form factor that you plug into the motherboard with. It just
so do you stick it like, I thought it goes horizontal. Do you put it in a PCI Express slot sticking straight up?
No, it goes flat. Like basically there's a slot on the side.
But it's just a PCI Express slot?
No, it's an M2 slot.
Okay.
PCI Express is just a bus protocol.
All right.
So it just uses that protocol. It's on that bus, but you literally, for M.2, you just slide it in sideways, parallel to the plane of the motherboard itself.
Okay.
It's like a RAM stick, except the bits are on the end.
And the OS just sees this as just like any other hard drive?
Yes. So pretty much, if you're building a super fast computer these days, you get a super fast, awesome M.2 hard drive that looks like a RAM stick, and just stick it into the motherboard and install Windows on that.
Okay.
Holy shit, does this thing look fast from the benchmarks and everything I've looked at.
It's like, it looks fast, this piece of silica.
Yeah, no, but
The
I mean,
circuit board looks real fast. It's just sitting there on the table. Wow, that's fast.
it actually does. Like, looking at pictures of it compared to pictures of like similar drives. Now, some motherboards...
It's got some lightning bolts on it, some LEDs blinking.
Some motherboards, Daddy 2 M.2 slots, but I felt like that was overboard. I'm not doing any RAID or any crap like that. I've got one 512 SSD.
Oh, well, what's the price of this compared to the one you just said?
$350.
And what's the sizes?
512 gig, both of them.
Oh, so it costs twice as much to get
It costs
the small...
twice as much. It appears to be more than twice as fast.
Yeah, all right. I wouldn't get... With that pricing, I wouldn't get 2 of the M2 ones unless I was hella rich.
Exactly. See, because even though I've got money, I'm not going to waste money. I don't need that much.
Yeah, dude, if I won the lottery and had hundreds of $1 millions and lived on the beach, I would still frugally buy a PC.
Yeah. If I had millions of dollars, the only difference between the computer I'm showing you...
I would drive a GTR, though. Fuck
and
you.
the computer I would actually buy then, if I had millions of dollars... I would buy like some ridiculous oxygen card for my video editing, but I'm not gonna,
oxygen card.
or like, one of those like fancy render cards, like Quadros, I guess.
I would just get
nowadays.
the NVIDIA Titans.
Yeah, but I would get a render specific amazing card, and I'd have a separate gaming PC. But that's if I had ridiculous stupid money, which
NVIDIA
I do not have.
Titans. 2 of them.
But yeah, so the gist of all this is that you can now build a computer where disk I/O is basically not a bottleneck anymore, which is kind of amazing.
It hasn't been a bottleneck for me since, SSDs, not SATA, but SSDs.
It's a bottleneck if you've got multiple 4K and 1080p videos and you're trying to watch them all at the same time in a multi-camera monitor.
Actually, even though my computer is like way, way fast, the thing that really kills me with 4K video is just playing it. Like VLC, just playing it. Like, it'll be fully loaded, but VLC is just like, there's so many pixels to draw every frame.
Well, what do you got, a 780? 770?
No, the GPU is a 680.
Oh.
And the CPU is like a i7 that's really fast.
So it's interesting. I have a 770.
Mm-hmm.
I can play 4K video just fine in VLC, but I cannot play it fine in Premiere.
No, Premiere is actually better at it than I found than
But the
VLC.
thing
But
is,
that's, I think what it is in VLC, the problem is when I try to full screen it. In Premiere, I'm never full screening the 4K video.
yeah, but in Premiere, I can only play it if I down-res it to like, like the 4X or the 8X, like the bad view.
Oh, I don't do that.
But I literally, my disk I/O maxes out when I hit play. That's just because my computer's so old.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell that whenever I buy a new computer, the things I spend the most money on are the things that are like a current plateau of amazing performance, while simultaneously are hitting my biggest pain point with my current PC. I'm willing to spend a lot to avoid the problems I have today, and I'm not going to spend money on stuff that I don't notice a problem with my CPU speed. So I'm not going to spend a ton of money to try to get more. Like, I'm not going to overclock because my CPU is not significantly limiting me. So let's see. The problem with CPUs. So I'm going to get the Core i7 6700K, Skylake, whatever, 4-core, 4 gigahertz.
Doesn't come with a cooler?
It does not come with the cooler. I had to do the most research to figure out like what coolers are good. I've never bought an aftermarket cooler in my life because they were always stupid. But now you pretty much have to. And I think the best one to get for me is the NZXT Kraken.
What the hell is that?
So remember, it's kind of like what we were looking at PAX. This is the
So
standard.
you're saying that advertisement worked on you at PAX?
Yeah. So yeah, kind of. I can explain
You
why.
you got sold by the people with the booth at PAX. The next time you say advertising doesn't work on people, well, I'll just be like, well, that booth on PAX worked at you.
But I'll explain at least why it was. It's not just like, oh, I saw it and it's good. I actually have some reasons why. Because I did a little bit of research.
Everyone justifies things after the fact. That's how humans work.
No, because I actually went and looked at a lot of other cases. I went to the dealer's room a couple times, and that was actually the best case at PAX. Everything else either had things that you would complain about, stupid fancy crap or whatever, or they were just like weird form factors. Like everything at an angle.
The only cases I saw at PAX I liked were the small ones for like that tiny computer we saw.
Oh yeah, but that's a different use case.
Pretty much every case that was on display was a gamery, the kind of looked of like spinning rims kind of style.
Yeah, which doesn't
LEDs.
bother me, but this was probably the most tasteful case there.
I mean, it wasn't the worst I've seen, but it was bad.
I don't know why you think it was bad. I think it actually is elegant. It has a like 60s kitchen aesthetic that I kind of like.
Yeah, okay, sure, if you think so. It definitely has a teenager with too much money's bedroom aesthetic, I think.
How is like an off-white enamel looking thing with a single red stripe?
It had like a window on the side.
Every case has a window on the side.
And a cyber shape to it.
What do you mean cyber shape? What the... I can show you a case where I'd say, yeah, that has a cyber shape. This case has like 1964 kitchen
Just
because
your spinning rims are less spinning doesn't mean they're not spinning.
But I looked at a lot of cases at PAX, and I feel like that one was the best one I saw that was actually a mid-tower.
It wasn't the worst, I gotta say.
Didn't have like weird crap. Like it didn't have any stuff built into it for like ridiculous liquid cooling nonsense that I don't want.
Oh, that's true.
And I went back over there. And I put drives into it and took drives out of it. It was the best putting drives in and taking drives out experience I've ever had with
I love how you
case.
take that into consideration, a thing that you're going to do like twice.
Yeah, because you know what?
It has to be, this thing I do twice has to be a great experience.
Because I'll do it a third time toward the end of the computer's life when I go, this M.2 isn't really cutting it anymore. I got to open it up and add some SATA 50 drives to it. And then I remember how much of a pain in the ass it is. But the drives just mount really well. It was really nice. But more importantly, remember that TED Talk about if you have a lot of options and they're all mostly the same, the best thing is to go with whatever you just touched or like just pick one randomly. Doesn't matter.
Your case, I mean, the case matters when you're building it and it matters for cooling and keeping dust out. But after that, if you don't look at it and it's, which Rim, I guess, is going to look at his a lot because he likes his spinning rims.
Look, my case is like buried inside my desk. It's only sticking out now because it overheats a little bit.
Yeah, I see it has a bunch of LEDs in it that are all blazing.
That's because those are the cheapest fans. Also, I don't know why the LEDs bother you. I don't know why you care so much about what someone else is wearing.
I'm just saying.
Like, it seems this fashion.
I'm not getting any dumb LEDs in my computer.
But anyway, I'll get back to the case. So the other thing I realized, part of the reason I picked this case, is that the way to put a CPU cooler on today is do it like most people do and just fucking randomly buy one and it doesn't fit in your case and you have problems. Buy one that's like this giant piece of ridiculous metal that fills the entire inside of your case.
What?
That's what most CPU coolers look like. Or get a liquid pump where there's just one little contact on the CPU and then you put this big radiator like on the, like, you know where your fans go in the front of your case? You put a radiator there behind the fans instead. So the CPU is radiating to this giant thin radiator right where your fans are, far away from the actual CPU, and it's just pumping liquid back and forth between it.
Do you need a pump for that?
So you buy these self-enclosed things.
What if the liquid comes out? What if it breaks? Then
your CPU overheats.
Is that like hoses or what? Like?
Yeah, it's all a built-in unit. The failure rate on these things is actually really, really low.
I feel like it's going to spill everywhere and ruin everything.
One, if it spills everywhere, it's not going to break anything. It's just a moderate, like, oil whatever mess.
Oh, it's not water?
It's not water. No, you don't put water in something like this. But basically, that's the best way to do it that I can see. And after reading a bunch of guides, a lot of people do crazy crap that I'm not going to do, where they'll basically buy, like, a water reservoir, and instead of having this self-contained unit that someone else put together that you just buy and install, they'll buy a pump, they'll buy all the different pipes, they'll have this connected to another system that's also cooling the inside of their motherboard and all their other bits, this ridiculous nonsense. So instead, I'm just getting this one Kraken thing that cools the CPU, and because that is made by the same company that makes that case, it's guaranteed to fit perfectly.
The case doesn't come with it?
No, case doesn't come with that.
Well, because they got you.
It doesn't know what CPU
How much is this thing?
$100.
Scott, man.
I'm
paying $0, but instead of getting that, you could have gotten 2 M2s, right? Pretty much.
All right, Scott, what CPU are you going to buy if you buy a new computer? Are you going to get the fastest Intel chip? Because there's no cooler.
I'll just get a cheapo cooler for $20.
What cheapo cooler?
I'll buy an Intel cooler from someone.
The stock Intel cooler cannot cool that chip effectively. It'll run at about 3.4 gigahertz if you put that on there.
I'm sure there is a normal cooler I can find on Newegg if I looked.
Yeah, so what you can get for about $40.
Let me check Newegg.
For $40 or $50, you can get one of the giant ones that fills the whole inside of your case with metal.
No, I don't want that. Oh.
For $80, you can get a smaller radiator, but reports seem to indicate that the chip tends to only run at like 3.8 gigahertz if you get that one. I did a lot of research on these. I might be able to get away with one smaller cooler and save a little bit of money, and I actually haven't finished that research yet. But this is the guaranteed safe cooler, because another thing I went guaranteed safe on was the power supply. So I did a lot of research as to how much power modern computers need, and all the calculations I could do said that I need about a 550 to 650 watt power supply. So I'm getting a 760 watt one, and I'm getting a really high quality one because that guarantees 100% I will not have a power supply problem, because I just never want to deal with a power supply problem again on a computer ever. This one's super highly rated. It's some Corsair whatever. It's platinum certified, so it'll actually save me a moderate amount of money. And the reviews, again, seem pretty good. Oh, what else did I get in here? So the case, yeah, it's that NXT whatever case. I'll just link to it. Seriously, I think it's a really good case. There's probably a better case out there. I am not willing to spend the effort to find it because this case is really good, and it's only $100.
So here is a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo CPU cooler with 120mm PWM fan.
120, all right, so that'll be a little loud.
It's the highest rated cooler on Newegg. It's $30. You can it's $25 after a $5 rebate.
Is that for LGA 1151?
It is for
which Intel is that for?
LGA 1151.
All right.
And it says in CPU support Core i7 Extreme.
All right.
And it looks pretty small. It's just, it looks like a normal cooler. It's got some pipe thingies sticking out the side of it, and it's,
So it doesn't have a radiator. It's just like
it looks like a radiator, but yeah, it's pretty much just looks like that, an alternative to the Intel normal cooler, but it doesn't look ridiculous or large or anything. It looks perfectly serviceable for $30.
A little bit of follow-up research, but from what I've read, those kinds of coolers won't fully cool this chip.
Well, it has 5 eggs and 4,019 reviews.
Oh.
So that sounds promising to me.
The other thing that worries me is you said 120mm fan. That implies that it's a lot louder than the one I'm getting. The main selling point of the one I'm getting...
Yeah, I guess if you have the liquid going to a radiator, there's no fan, right?
Well, you have your case fans in the front. Like, there are still fans.
Well, those are there anyway, though.
And also,
you have one less fan.
Yeah, but here's also that case I'm getting, the NXZXT or whatever.
The first review says quieter than stock fans.
Oh.
Both AMD and Intel.
The review of this Kraken thing in this case basically says it is fucking silent. But this case is only $100. I paid more than that for the case I got now, and I do not like the case I got now.
This says provides really good temperature control to an i7 6700K.
All right. Maybe I'll do a little more research on the cooler.
$30 for just a normal old cooler. I don't know why it says Intel. They could have just charged $30 more and included one of these.
It is interesting. It still bothers me because I didn't notice until a couple months ago that Intel does not
I don't know how
sell...
much research you did because this is just like the top of Newegg, the #1 rated cooler.
Yeah, well, I can go back and see because multiple of the Cooler Master whatevers, the reviews I was reading said that the chip only ran at 3.6, 3.7. Like it wouldn't run at 4.
I just sent you the link right there.
Yeah, and I'll look at it.
It was on the front page of Newegg cooler section.
Oh, what else did I get in this case? So the other thing I'm getting, RAM, whatever, just 32 gigs of RAM, RAM's RAM.
The different memory brand isn't superior.
I just got the Corsair, whatever. It was a good price point. I'm getting 2x16 because eventually I'll probably upgrade, and that seems like the best.
I have 32, and it's more RAM than I've ever used ever. I don't think I'm going to need more than 32 unless there's someone starts writing some really bad software.
My current computer is maxed out at 12.
At work, I have 8, and it's definitely not enough. I run out of RAM at work. Chrome unloads tabs that are in the background because it's out of RAM, and then I have to, so I got to get a new computer at work.
Yeah, I got 32 gig at work, and 12 of that is running a really powerful VM that I do a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah,
in all
VMs
the time.
are killing me at work.
I got a crappy FireWire card, whatever. But one more thing that I got is I did buy some spinning discs. Because I was
You don't have existing spinning discs?
Yeah, I'm not going to use them. I'm not taking anything out of this old computer except the video card.
Aren't the spinning discs perfectly good?
They're ancient
Aren't there
slow as shit.
Aren't there SSDs in there that are perfectly good?
Yeah, and I'm going to keep this computer. I'm going to use it for something.
Okay.
My HTPC is on its last legs. I might just make this the HTPC
What's wrong with your HTPC? The same one as I do. Mine's great.
It's overheating for one. I got to clean it out.
Mine
2,
doesn't have any problems.
The hard drive has some bad sectors. There's only one hard drive in it.
Mine has one hard drive that's perfectly fine.
Well, mine's got some bad sectors.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, it stutters sometimes when it's playing video. I gotta futz with it a little bit.
Mine doesn't do that.
It's got an old GTX 460 in it.
Mine has like a low-profile ATI AMD card that never had a problem.
Yep. But also, maybe I'll just sell this computer because it's perfectly good. But most of the drives in it are ancient. Like I have SSDs. Only one of those SSDs is a modern, reasonably performing one. The other ones are old as shit and slow as shit by modern standards. There's no point in keeping them. And the spinning disks, they're old and low capacity. Like, why would I even care? I could stick them in the new computer just to have access to that old data that I don't need. So, But I was thinking about buying a new NAS, and it's actually much more cost effective to just buy 2 4 terabyte 5400 RPM disks for cheap and just stick them in there and do a mirror, and that'll just be my RAID effectively. I'll just back everything up there.
I just use my NAS.
My NAS is only 2 terabytes.
Mine is like 6 because I have 4 2-terabyte drives in it.
Yeah, my NAS is old. It only takes 2 disks.
It's almost full, though. I'm going to have to clean out some
Yeah,
stuff.
mine is also always teetering on full. I just recently dumped the whole thing up to Amazon Cloud Drive, and I started deleting stuff.
I might do something like that because, yeah.
But basically, I've got so much like B-roll and all these things, and for a long time, I would back them up to the NAS, and eventually I'd take stuff that I wasn't accessing, and I stuck it on 2 redundant external drives and just like file them away. But I realized it'd be much more convenient if I just kept everything local, and 4 terabytes, I can keep like all the video we'll gather from GeekNights for the next 5 years just local and not even think about it. It'll be just as redundant, and it'll still be backed up to the cloud. And it's way cheaper just to buy 2 4 terabyte, like slow, efficient drives and just throw them in there than it is to upgrade my NAS. Like so much cheaper, that's not even a question. So yeah, that's pretty much the computer that I'm probably going to buy other than some tweaks. I don't know when I'll actually pull the trigger because like I said, there's no specific urgency in my current computer other than its known limitations. There's nowhere near failing. Like, I'm using it now.
You just like buying stuff.
Not really. It's just I can't easily edit 4K video, and the lack of USB 3 and the lack of, like, modern SATA and the fact that even my 770 is running slower because I don't even have modern PCI Express, it's all starting to add up. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
And the patrons for this episode of Geek Nights in the amount of money that they give us on a continuing basis are Alan Joyce, Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brandau, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian People Ask Me If We're Related to Lacoons, Jess, MyStady.com, Sean Hayworth, Mechanical Mind, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Spartacus, Matthew Smith, Kimberly Batchelor, Kajar Tavishan, Joshiro Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Schleich, Sean Yeager, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Cedroni, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Solverod, and The Infinite Sadness, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Jon Snow, Sam Cordery, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. Still really hard to do that without having a coughing fit since I'm still recovering from some illness. And as you saw, I finally got a Rims rant up on the Patreon. I would have put that up many days ago, but there was a oddly specific Patreon problem that I have a ticket open with them. And basically, I can upload 160 kilobit per second MP3s of any length up to 100 megabytes, but 192 kilobit per second MP3, it just hangs forever. And they can reproduce it, but they can't explain it. And now I leave you with something kind of weird.
Sir, you're being stopped by an officer of the New York City Police Department, Manhattan District. You were doing 100 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. May I see your driver's license and registration, please?
Here you are.
Thank you.
Wait.
My God, you're Captain Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. I'm so happy to see you, my God.
Thank you.
Hey, come over here, it's Captain Jack.
Hey, listen.
My God, son, I'm happy to see you.
Okay.
My friends, listen to your music. Hey, ho, Captain.
Hey, listen. Here are 2 autograph cards for your friends, and I have to use my race